The silence in my father's dining room didn't just hang in the air, it suffocated. It was a thick, oily tension that tasted like the cheap Chianti Sloane's husband, Gareth, had been swirling in his glass with an air of unearned sophistication. I felt the heat rising in my neck, a slow burn realization that the people sitting across from me, the people who shared my DNA, didn't just look down on me. They despised me. They viewed my existence as a stain on the luxury brand they had spent a decade fabricating. "Stand up, Maya," my 10-year-old niece, Brinley, repeated. Her voice was high, clear, and devoid of any childish hesitation. She was wearing a French designer dress that cost more than my first 3 cars combined, and her eyes were fixed on me with a terrifying, clinical coldness. "That's the rule. Mom says in the old days, the people with the money sat down, and the people who worked for them stood up like statues. She says you're poor, so you're the statue today." I looked at my sister, Sloane. I expected a reprimand. I expected her to gasp, to pull Brinley aside, to apologize for the monstrous social hierarchy she was clearly instilling in her children. Instead, Sloane leaned back in her chair, her manicured fingers toyed with a heavy gold necklace, and a slow, triumphant smile spread across her face. Beside her, Gareth didn't even look up from his phone, though he let out a sharp, mocking snort. "Out of the mouths of babes, right?" Gareth muttered, finally glancing at me with a smirk that made my skin crawl. "Social hierarchy exists for a reason, Maya. It's the natural order. Some of us climb the ladder, and some of us just hold the base so it doesn't wobble." I turned to my father, Arthur. He was the one who insisted on these monthly Sunday lunches. He was the one who preached about family being the only thing that mattered after my mother passed. Surely, he would stop this. But as I caught his eye, I saw something worse than anger. I saw agreement. He looked at my worn jeans, my simple cotton sweater, and the practical key fob on the table, and he sighed a heavy, disappointed sound. "Maya, don't be difficult," my father said softly, his voice cutting through me like a jagged blade. "Sloane is just being honest. There's a difference in stations here. If the child wants to learn how the world works, maybe you should just accommodate the lesson. Just for a moment." That was the irreversible turning point. The moment the bridge didn't just burn, but vaporized. They had no idea that while they were playing high society in a house my father barely managed to keep heated, I was the one holding the deeds to their entire lives. They had no idea that the mediocre property management job they mocked was actually a multi-million-dollar real estate empire I had built from the dirt up. I stood up. Not because they told me to, but because I was finished. I picked up my bag, looked at the 3 people who thought I was their servant, and felt a cold, crystalline clarity settle over my soul. They wanted a lesson in social hierarchy? I was about to give them a master class. The drive home was a blur of neon lights and white-hot fury. For 6 years, I had played the role of the struggling sister. I drove a 10-year-old sedan, lived in a modest apartment, and never wore a label that wasn't hidden on the inside of a collar. I did it because I valued privacy, and because I wanted to see who my family really was without the influence of my bank account. I had been too generous. That was my sin. 6 years ago, my father had come to me, hat in hand, nearly in tears. Sloane was rising in the local social circles, and she was embarrassed that our family didn't have a vacation home to host her wealthy friends. Dad was on a fixed retirement income and couldn't afford a potting shed, let alone a lakefront estate. "Don't worry about it, Dad," I had told him back then. "I'll handle it. I'll buy a place, put it in my company's name, and you can tell Sloane it's a family asset. Just don't mention me. I don't want the drama." I bought the first property, Azure Lakefront, a gorgeous, sprawling 5-bedroom estate with a private dock and a wraparound porch. I spent 6 months overseeing the renovation, turning it into a masterpiece of modern luxury. I gave my father the keys and told him to let the family use it. Sloane immediately moved in, posting photos on social media with captions like #FamilyLegacy and #SterlingEstate. She assumed it was a secret inheritance or a lucky investment Dad had made. She never asked. She just took. 2 years later, I added Pinecrest Lodge, a massive timber frame cabin in the most exclusive ski resort in the state. Again, I handed the keys to Dad. Again, Sloane treated it like her personal playground, hosting lavish New Year's Eve parties and never once wondering who paid the astronomical property taxes or the $2,000 monthly heating bill. Last year, I finished the trio with the Sanctuary, a glass-walled beach house on the coast that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. Total value of the portfolio? Nearly $4 million. All in my name. All managed by Aegis Property Group, my firm. And all currently being used by a woman who just told me I should stand while she ate because I was poor. I pulled my car into the driveway of my own home, not the apartment Sloane thought I lived in, but my actual residence, a secluded, high-security smart home tucked away from prying eyes. I didn't even take off my coat before I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. My fingers flew across the keys. I wasn't the quiet sister anymore. I was the CEO of Aegis, and it was time for a corporate restructuring. Call 1, security, I muttered, my voice echoing in the empty room. I dialed the high-end security firm that handled my properties. This is Maya Vance, primary owner of Azure Lakefront, Pinecrest, and the Sanctuary. I need a full lockout. Change the digital codes, swap the physical deadbolts, and revoke all third-party access immediately. I want it done tonight. Triple the emergency rate if you have to. Understood, Ms. Vance, the dispatcher replied. We have teams in all 3 zones. We'll have the properties secured by midnight. Call 2, legal. I dialed my attorney, Marcus. It was Sunday night, but for the retainer I paid him, he answered on the second ring. Maya? Everything okay? Marcus, I need formal trespass notices drafted for Sloane Sterling and Gareth Sterling. Effective immediately, they are barred from all Aegis-owned residential properties. If they set foot on the grass at the lake, the mountain, or the beach, I want them detained. Also, I need an inventory list sent to them for any personal items they left behind. They have 48 hours to schedule a supervised pickup through a third-party moving company. They are not to contact me directly. Damn, Marcus whistled. The family assets are going dark? The family is dead, Marcus. I'm just clearing the ledger. By 10 p.m., my inbox was flooded with confirmation emails. The digital keys Sloane and Gareth used to enter the properties had been deactivated. The smart home systems had been reset. The Sterling legacy was officially a locked box. I spent the rest of the night drafting a single, cold email. I didn't use flowery language. I didn't vent my feelings. I attached the 3 property deeds, clear as day, with my signature as the sole purchaser and owner. To Sloane and Gareth.
Effective immediately, your access to the properties at Azure Lakefront, Pinecrest Lodge, and the Sanctuary has been revoked. These are private assets owned by Aegis Property Group. Since you believe so strongly in social hierarchy and knowing one's place, it is only fitting that you return to yours. You do not own these homes. You never did. You were guests of my charity, a charity that has officially gone bankrupt. The locks have been changed. Any attempt to enter these premises will result in immediate arrest for trespassing. Please coordinate with my legal counsel for the retrieval of your belongings. Enjoy your seat at the table. I hope it's comfortable, because it's the only thing you have left. Maya. I hit send and turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I slept like a baby. The storm hit at 6 a.m. Even with my phone on Do Not Disturb, the vibrations on my nightstand were constant, a frantic buzzing that sounded like a trapped hornet. I let it go for 2 hours. I made coffee. I watched the sun rise over the trees. I felt lighter than I had in a decade. When I finally checked my messages, the explosion was even bigger than I'd anticipated. Sloane, 6:14 a.m. What is this? Gareth and I are at the lake for the week and the gate code isn't working. The security guard told us we're trespassing. Maya, stop this childish prank right now. The kids are crying in the car. Open the gate. Sloane, 6:45 a.m. I just saw the email. You're lying. These are Dad's houses. You're forging documents. This is theft. We have guests coming for a brunch at noon. You are embarrassing me in front of everyone. Gareth, 7:10 a.m. Maya, I don't know what kind of power trip you're on, but you're messing with the wrong people. I have connections. If you don't reactivate our access in the next 10 minutes, I will make sure your little property management company is audited into the ground. Don't play games with me. Dad, 8:05 a.m. Maya, please call me. Sloane is hysterical. She says you've locked them out of the lake house. She says you're claiming you own them. We had an agreement. Honey, these are family houses. You can't just take them away because of a joke at lunch. Be the bigger person. I ignored the texts and called my father back. Maya. Thank God, he exhaled. Listen, you need to call the security company. Sloane is parked at the end of the driveway and the police are there. It's a mess. Just tell them it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, Dad, I said, my voice as flat as a frozen pond. I own those houses. I paid every cent for them. I paid the taxes, the insurance, the repairs, and the furniture. I let you hold the keys because I thought you'd use them to bring us together. Instead, you used them to facilitate a fantasy where Sloane is a queen and I'm the help. It was just a dinner, Maya. Brinley is a child, she didn't know. She knew exactly what she was saying because her mother has been whispering it in her ear for years. And you sat there, Dad. You sat there and told me to stand up. You told me to accommodate the lesson. Well, here is the lesson. The person who owns the table is the only one who decides who gets to sit. You're being cruel, he whispered. No, Dad. I'm being pedestrian. I'm being stagnant. Isn't that what Sloane calls me? I'm just a girl with a mediocre job. And as a mediocre girl, I've decided I can no longer afford to house ungrateful millionaires in their own minds. Sloane can go stay in a hotel. If she can afford one. I hung up before he could respond. An hour later, Sloane sent a frantic, rambling video message. She was standing on the side of the road, her perfect hair frizzed by the humidity, her designer makeup smeared with tears. Behind her, I could see the flashing lights of a sheriff's cruiser. You're ruining my life, she shrieked into the camera. Everyone knows we spend July at the lake. I've already invited the HOA board for a gala. If I have to cancel, my reputation is destroyed. Do you have any idea what this does to Gareth's business? People think we own this place. You can't just reveal this now. I watched the video twice. The lack of an apology was telling. She wasn't sorry for what she said. She was sorry she had been caught being a parasite. She was terrified that the high society mask she wore was about to be ripped off, revealing the truth. She was broke, pretentious, and utterly dependent on the sister she mocked. I typed back a single response. Then I guess you'll have to tell them the truth, Sloane. Tell them your poor sister owns the life you've been bragging about. Or, you could just stand on the sidewalk. Like a statue. 6 months later, the dust had settled, but the landscape of our family was unrecognizable. I didn't back down. I sold Azure Lakefront 3 weeks after the incident. I didn't need the money, but I wanted the property gone. I wanted the sterling legacy erased from the map. Sloane found out through a Zillow alert, and she reportedly had a nervous breakdown when she saw the sold sign in the yard of the place she had called her birthright. She and Gareth had to downsize. Without the family estates to use as collateral for their image, Gareth's investment partners began to look closer at his actual assets. It turned out he was leveraged to the hilt, living a life of credit cards and illusions. They moved into a cramped 3-bedroom rental in a suburb Sloane used to call the slums. My father tried to mediate, but the bridge was gone. He had chosen a side that day at the table, and he had chosen the side of the labels and the lies. He still lives in his old house, but I no longer pay for his lawn service or his premium cable. If Sloane is the successful one, I told him, she can handle the bills. I kept Pine Crest and the Sanctuary, but I turned them into high-end, short-term rentals. They are now listed on my company's website, generating a staggering $30,000 a month in pure profit. Sometimes, I look at the booking calendar and see names of people Sloane used to try to impress. I spent Christmas at the beach house, the Sanctuary, alone. I sat at the massive, reclaimed oak dining table, looking out at the dark, churning Atlantic. The house was silent, beautiful, and entirely mine. My phone chimed. It was a text from a number I hadn't blocked yet. My father. Brinley asked if we were going to the mountain for New Year's. She misses the castle. I didn't know what to tell her. I looked at the empty chairs surrounding me. I thought about the little girl who had been taught that some people were statues. I thought about the woman who clapped for her. I typed back. Tell her that in the real world, the castles belong to the people who build them, not the people who just want to sit on the throne. Tell her that if she wants to see the view from the top, she should start walking. Because from where I'm sitting, the chairs are all full. I blocked the number, set my phone face down, and began to eat my dinner. I sat in the center of the room, the owner of every brick, every glass pane, and every shadow. And for the first time in my life, I didn't just have a seat at the table. I was the table.